to get it up. And
Yep.
I'm really slow at editing.
And
So,
live gives a real interchange. I love it.
yeah. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are, we're live. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Jason J. Daniel Show. I'm Jason J. Daniel. I have a really fantastic special guest, Mindy. I didn't clarify how to pronounce your last name. I know so let me try it. I know it's the first time we've met, guys.
Okay.
We're strangers in the afternoon. Here we go. PECHENUK?
Almost. PECHENUK.
PECHENUK. Okay, see, this interview's starting off great. So, Mindy's running for Oakland mayor, a mayoral candidate in the special election. The election is next week, right?
Right.
April 1, 5. Crazy stuff. We're almost there. So, Mindy decided to spend some time with me today because we want the message for all the candidates to get out. I just full disclosure, I've offered every candidate to come aboard. About half of them have. And so we're here to talk with Mindy about her vision for Oakland. And we were having a conversation. I had to stop it and say, this is too good. We need the viewers to listen to this. So, guys, if you're watching this live on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Rumble, there is a chat. Jump in, ask questions. If I see a question that is relevant, we'll do that. So we have Mindy's information at the top of the screen, and I want Mindy to take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. And I do welcome questions. I believe dialogue is a great principle to solve agreements or disagreements. And my name, as I said, is Mindy PECHENUK. And as Jason said, I'm running for mayor of Oakland. And I have a great vision for Oakland, which is to make it a major industrial productive city again, free of every problem we have, whether it's crime, homelessness, or drugs. And because I've only lived in Oakland about 10 years. I was originally grew up in New York City, organized for 50 years politically. I lived in the Midwest for 27 years and came to California in 2007. And I've adopted Oakland as my home. And what I've seen happen to the city in the 10 years I've lived here and my knowledge of politics, uh, I know some people I say it's deliberate, and it's also a question of some people just not knowing because of the current education system. But there's also a deliberate element, which has happened to the country, which has happened to other cities, but to Oakland, it's been like a test model to how do you destroy a city that once was a major industrial center. This is what's so striking to me. You used to have in East Oakland, Del Monte Foods, Chevrolet car company building cars. You had bakeries. East Oakland was the hub of production. And now you look at East Oakland today, and as I was telling Jason, I've done many ride-alongs with the East Oakland police. And so I've been through the worst parts of East Oakland. And it just tears your heart apart, to be honest, to see what it's become with the open air drug markets all over, International Boulevard, 73rd Street. I mean, you just see it with your own eyes. The guns, the drugs, the homeless encampments from what was not that long ago. To me, 70 years isn't that long ago. 80 years isn't that long ago. Being 73, it's a lifetime. And so my vision is to return Oakland to that kind of major center. We could build the port of Oakland to be even more of an industrial center of export for the world. And that's why I love Trump's new tariff policy, which is tremendous. He's really putting an end to globalization. And I really want people to understand what he's doing versus the rhetoric in all the news media out there. He's actually putting an end to globalization. And this country was built as a major, in God's image, with a creative mind to develop new discoveries in science and art and development. That was the American spirit. And over the last, since the death of JFK and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King, we've been through a systematic destruction to remove that from the hearts and minds of our American people. And I think in Oakland, with my campaign, I'm hoping to bring that back into the hearts and minds of our people instead of the policies that are destroying Oakland under the guise of being free. So I'll leave my there. I could always say a lot more, as you know, Joseph, Jason, sorry, but
That's
go
okay.
ahead.
You can call me Joseph. People call me Daniel all the time. I love that.
Sorry, Jason. No.
No, it's all good. We just met. So,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning your last name. So, um, man, let me just take a step back. I feel like we should just call this the Mindy and Jason show, and let's do this every week. Oh my
I
God.
would love to. You got
What
it.
you just
I'm
said,
on with you.
what you just said was it was mind blowing. Like you said so much great stuff in like 30 to 60 seconds. It's wild. Wow. We could stop right now. Like that message is the message. Um, I appreciate how firm you are about your stance with the president and how you support Trump. And you brought it up. Let's jump into it because I think a lot of people are interested in that. You're not the typical what people would think. Now you're gonna fracture this mindset,
Okay.
but a lot of people would think you're not a typical Oakland political resident because you're a conservative. You're a strong conservative, but that is not true. There are many strong conservatives in Oakland that are like you. And we were talking about that. Get into your experience when you're out campaigning. You would think people might, talk trash to you, right? And be upset with you because you're wearing your Trump gear, but you're out there, you're proud to do it. Talk about the response you get when you're campaigning and people know you're clearly supporting the president's agenda.
Yep, and I say it in my literature too. So when I'm out there and I have my Trump hat on and my Trump shirt on and going through Oakland, it's the response is actually remarkable. In fact, I have get more support than I get attacked. I mean, I think I've had two people ever say something nasty to me,
What
and
do they say to you? I mean, what would they say to you? You're a nice person. What would they say?
how can you support that man? You know, and you know, and but that's only like two people.
Sure, it's and that's their right to say that.
That's right. And so I say, okay. And if they're a little bit open, I can have a conversation. One day I was in Trader Joe's and this young man comes up in his 20s and he sees me wearing my gear and he says, "What's it like to walk around Oakland wearing Trump gear?" He was from out of town. And I said, "It's great. I have young black men stopping me saying, 'I like your hat.' I get a Hispanic, you know, you know, security guard saying, 'I like your hat.' I get people in general, just average Oaklanders, coming up
Yeah,
saying, you know, I would be afraid to do this, but I really support President Trump. And then we exchanged information and become friends, and it draws people out of all walks of life. I don't care what party, what race, what religion. People were just afraid to do it in Oakland because of the controlled environment. But once you break the controlled environment, and I'll just tell you one last
yeah.
story.
Talk about that. The controlled environment. Break that down.
Yeah, because the city, unfortunately, like several other cities, California really supports Trump. I can tell you that there's huge support for Trump throughout the state, and I
I've
organize.
connected. Yeah, I've connected to the people running the recall against Gavin, and there's huge support. And if you're against Gavin, you're pretty much on the Trump train. I'll just throw that out there. I see it
Right.
myself.
No, it's true. And my husband and I, with friends, started California MAGA,
Oh
and
wow,
we
did not
actually
know
Zoom
that. That's
every
cool.
Friday night. We Zoom every Friday night with people throughout the state, and we've been doing it for 2 years. So I can tell you. So in Oakland, the cities like Oakland were targeted, and this goes back to the 1960s. This goes back to what the globalists, the Federal Reserve crowd, British intelligence, the British, banking crowd, they wanted to destroy the United States. and they brought in the drugs. Drugs didn't just naturally sprout up in, the country. I
Right.
won't go, I could speak on this for hours, but I'll cut it a little bit short.
Hey, you know what? I got time. You do you.
Okay. And the country was targeted. It was targeted to stop the actual notions that were founded in our US Constitution, that we are created in the image of God. We make, this is why I love the fact that Trump has a space program like JFK did. So people who want to say, wait a minute, JFK was a Democrat, Trump is a running as is a Republican, yet both of them supported a space program for a reason, to advance the knowledge of mankind, the scientific knowledge of mankind, to bring about new discoveries, because that's what we're meant to do. You
Yeah, people
know,
that know their history will know that JFK and Trump policies very aligned.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And also with a lot of, I was a political organizer and still am, with Lyndon LaRouche, who's now deceased. And this is very much the same kinds of ideas of the American system. And so and we have to, and the whole culture of the DEI, the culture of focusing kids' education on sex and transgenderism versus studying Kepler or studying Leibniz and studying Benjamin Franklin. And I'm a classically trained musician. That's my background.
I was gonna get into the music, so I'm glad you brought it up. See, I
And
did
there's
my
my
research.
music. I don't know if you can see my music
I was
stand
gonna,
behind
we
me.
can see it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can continue what you're saying. I love it, but I do want to get into the music. People need to
Yeah.
know that.
Okay, good. And it is the question that this is what children should be discovering, not just learning to answer a test. That's stupid. That produces stupid people, people that are going to go along to get along, but actually studying how these great minds made their discoveries, studying why Abraham Lincoln was a deep thinker and why did he do what he did to, you know, actually win the Civil War, you know, and what that history really is. I have a great friend of mine, Robert Ingram. I think you'd love to have him on sometimes. He's written tons of books
I would
on
love that.
real
Any of your
American
friends, bring
history.
them on.
Yeah, real American history. And he wrote an incredible book called The Unconditional Surrender, The War in the 21st Century to Eradicate the Drug Cartels and Drugs.
Wow. Okay. After the interview, send me the link. I want to buy the book.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
read it.
he's great. You'd love him. And so just to get back to this question,
Yeah.
so Oakland was targeted as a city to, because it wasn't this way before. That's why it's targeted. And you have to look back, because running for mayor has caused me to go back and look at Oakland's history. And it's shocking. Oakland was known as the Detroit of the West. We were so productive. You would never have tolerated DEI, never tolerated being a sanctuary city. You know, you would never tolerate, what's happened in the schools, and some of it is statewide. I know not all of it comes from Oakland. You look at Gavin Newsom's statewide policies and the policies that come out of the state assembly, which is why I originally started running for office, running against Mia Bonta for state assembly.
Yeah. You have a lot of experience running. Yeah, at the state level as well.
Yep. And, people always tell me, well, don't push the Trump thing or don't say anything about LaRouche. You could win an election if you just stuck with the ideas. And I won't do that, because there's a principle involved.
You have to be true to
And
yourself, and that's the problem. We have politicians that just aren't true to themselves.
exactly.
Yeah,
So that's,
it's a bigger problem, but that's how it starts.
yeah, exactly. And so I find walking around Oakland in my Trump gear is just absolutely. And just the other day, I was getting some dim sum after campaigning in downtown in Chinatown. And I had my sign, I was carrying it, and this woman is trying in front of me trying to read my sign. I said, "Yeah, I'm Mindy. I'm running for mayor of Oakland." She said, "Oh, there's more than two candidates running?" I said, "Yes, I'm running." And she was totally excited. She turns out she's a Trumper.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And I
That
love
is,
it, Jason.
yeah, because I love this, by the way. I just love this conversation. I just want to take a moment. You said incredible things. First of all, LaRouche, everyone, you need to Google, guys. you just Google. Okay, you'll figure that out where that's
Okay, and I'm
important.
going to add one thing so they Google right,
Yeah,
which is
Google
that
Lulu.
um, it's now called Promethean action because there was a split in the LaRouche movement. And if you just Google LaRouche, you may
Okay.
end up with the split side versus, our name is Promethean action now.
Okay, good to know. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
just,
yeah, it's
yeah.
that's very important. Google that to get to tie into the political philosophy that essentially your mentor, right?
Yeah, no, it was, and I became a good friend and ally of his over the years, knew him personally,
Wow. That's
sat with him many times,
right.
and did a lot of work on the music with him.
That's well, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
But back to the campaign. The mainstream media is just promoting essentially two people.
right.
And what people misunderstand is all of you had to go through the same process, pay the same fees, get the same amount of signatures. Everyone had to work hard to get certified to be in the selection. But the fact that the media does not give everyone the same attention, they don't. They may give you a little bit if you show up at certain events. Not everybody's invited to the same debates. It's a real travesty for the voters. It is. It disturbs me, but it's happened since time immemorial, and that's why I do what I do because I want people
Thank
to
you.
have a chance to meet everybody and to learn. Most people would not know that you are the only Republican running for Oakland mayor, and that you are an alternative that people need. That's why I
Mhm.
was so excited to meet you and read your people. They got to go to your website. It is this interview times 1,000 on steroids. Your website is awesome. You have blogs that you're writing daily. You do daily updates. You have news articles. You are really plugged into Oakland and crime and the drug trade. In that the little drug. What do you call it? There's a drug market. Is that what it's called?
They called open air drug markets.
Yeah, it's wild. And you're connected to law enforcement. You have tons of experience. So, in my opinion, you are a fantastic alternative for folks that do not want to vote for someone who is very, very left wing. And most of the candidates are Democrats, and there's nothing wrong with that. As much as there's nothing wrong with you being a Republican alternative. And so I think I'm just really excited to be able to make that a thing, and I'm glad that we're talking about the nationwide issues with the president. Now, you mentioned tariffs and things like that. In fact, I just want to take a moment to say people are watching this video live or watching this stream. We love this. Thanks, guys. Question on that. Um, Obviously, the mayor is not necessarily a strong mayor under the charter. The mayor, you know the charter as well as I do. Explain how voting for you with your worldview and your political view, how would that change Oakland?
Well, first of all, I think we also have to change the charter.
Oh, good! Ooh, I love this. I love
I
that.
think the mayor
That's
has to become a strong mayor,
yes. That's
and
people
because
don't. Yes, good.
yeah, that's one thing. And also, as mayor, I think these city ordinances have to be changed. One thing I've learned in doing the ride-alongs with the police is that the city ordinances are a big problem. They tie the hands of our police officers. We not only
Yeah.
need 850 police officers, but even if you had them, if you don't change the city ordinances, their hands are still tied. They still can't do
Yeah,
what they need
100% the
to do.
politics. So, am I hearing that right? You said there's 850. Would that be new or is that the total?
That's what, otherwise, we're at like 600 or something right now. The
Wow.
stock is at least to get up to 850.
Wow.
But
Okay.
even if you get up to 850, you still have problems because the
The
ordinances, number
politics.
one, prevent them from doing their job. Number two, the Federal Oversight Commission, which is sucking the city blind on money, talk about wasting money. I'd like to bring the Doge into Oakland. And
Hell
what we
yeah.
find on the
Bring it
nonprofit
everywhere.
would be incredible. I know Seneca Scott has put some stuff up about the nonprofits and
He
what.
is he is another level, man. I'd
Yes,
not to
he
get into
is.
him, but you got guys, you gotta whether you love him or you hate him, you gotta read what he does. and I will point. I did have him on my
I,
podcast.
I saw that. That's great.
Thank
I
you.
talk with Seneca,
Yeah,
and
so everyone go into my archive, watch that interview.
yeah, no, it's great because he's digging into exactly what I want to do as mayor, which is to go into the nonprofits and clean house. These not, I just want to say a few things on this. The
Go ahead.
nonprofits are sucking the city dry of a lot of money. That's why it's not well, let me finish this point and then I'll go to the next one, which is you got to go in there. There's a lot of nonprofits, a lot of pay to play, which should not be getting a penny, and they are. Two, you have a situation where literally projects like macro. Now, for people who don't know what macro is a mental health, mental, sorry, hold on, Gerald. Sorry, my husband was talking in the background.
Gerald, what's up, man?
And these pictures in demand.
Yeah, this could be Mindy and Gerald and Jason's show. This is good,
Yeah,
man.
once you get my husband on, if you think you should get him on.
Wow.
Too shy.
Yeah.
We're totally in the future.
We've
We're
been
totally
married
doing
42 years and been political every day together on it.
In fact, I think when I emailed, I saw Gerald runs the campaign,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was very intrigued. Yeah, after the election, we'll definitely have a fun. We'll have a fun
Right,
one. Okay,
that'd be
go ahead.
great.
Yeah,
I'd love it, and he would too.
this is
And
good stuff.
macro, just back to macro, this is a program which is supposed to be helping mental health. Now, a
Okay.
lot of the crime in Oakland, there's two parts of the crime. One is you have drugs at the core of a lot of the crime and mental illness. And I've seen this with my own eyes on the ride alongs. Another side of the robberies and stuff comes from a different level of them. But macro is supposed to be a program. It gets about $5 million a year of city money and federal money. I'm
That's
not sure if it's
significant with the
federal.
budget crisis. Let's just say
Yeah,
that's significant.
yeah. I'm not sure if it's federal, so don't quote me on that. But
Fair
it gets
enough, but
$5 million.
we'll just say it's
Yeah,
an
it's $5
expensive.
million it's getting. And it does nothing. It does not. It does not help the police. First of all, they virtually never show up, except once in a blue moon. They won't work after certain hours. They won't, by the way they're set up, they cannot go into a dangerous situation.
So this
They
is
can
a
only
group. This is a group that's not law enforcement, but they're trained to bring
in
mental
mental health,
health and,
right?
and like a recovery crisis
Well,
intervention.
mostly they're supposed to be able to help the police if there's a situation which is mental health. So they're supposed to be trained to deal if there's a mental health problem, like a
Those
victim.
are some of the most dangerous situations. I mean, has
Yeah, yeah,
anybody
yeah.
thought this through?
And the suspect is, mentally ill, but they're by their or whatever rules of how they were set up,
Yeah,
they cannot go into a dangerous situation. So how often are they going to be used?
right. It's like almost just kind of a conversation, like it's on paper, but there's really
Right.
no action. You
No,
can't.
and it's
They
getting $5
designed it
million.
to where it's too safe. But if you need people to stay safe, why aren't the police that's their job to do unsafe things, right? That it's it that you yes, that's quite the discovery. When people dig into these programs, you're like wondering, what is this? What are we doing here?
So we have to get rid of the macro. And by the way, Barbara Lee is a big supporter of macro.
Okay,
And
so I'm glad you brought Barbara up. One of my rules, for just so people know, is I don't bring candidates up with candidates unless they do. Okay. So now you brought her up. Fair game.
Okay. Yeah, no, and it's out in the open because when we do
Because
forums
it's
together,
your time, right? I don't want people to come on and feel like
yeah,
they're having, but I want people to know I have no agendas. I have not endorsed any candidates. So, but Barbara Lee, you brought her up, so cool. Okay.
okay,
So,
yeah, she's a big. That's just an example,
yeah.
and just to back to this. This is where we have to clean out the house. So not only do you have the pay to plays that we all know about, and I'm sure that there are more pay to plays than Shangtao. If we start cleaning house and going through,
She's looking at 95 years.
I know.
95. That's older than all of us, man. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do that kind of crime? How do you get that? You just don't accidentally get an indictment that looks at 95. How did this happen? Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
I got to say, you're the first candidate that has talked corruption with me, and I give everyone the opportunity before the interview because I don't want people, because it's a difficult subject for people to talk about. It really is, and candidates get kind of like nervous about it. I think it's the biggest thing. I think it's the most important thing, but I want the candidates to decide for themselves what is important to talk about. So, sorry, just go ahead. I'm
Yeah, no, that's good.
yeah,
No, it's
go
great,
for it.
Jason.
Yeah. So you had a mayor who's so corrupt. Clearly, she, innocent until proven guilty, but it's systematic through the entire government.
Yep, and this is why, it's it's something that I feel very comfortable talking about because I
Good.
know somebody like Shang Tao is like a piece of toilet paper to be thrown away. But the people that created the big problems, the
That was a new
people at
one.
the top, which is the central banks, the Federal Reserve, the British Empire financial system. It is the
Is that your agent saying stop talking?
thank God, we're cleaning out the FBI and the CIA, and this is
Well,
not a new
you see it all like a larger connection.
right.
Like your point is, she's not the beginning of it. She's the systematic end of this problem. Like
Yeah,
she's the
she's a creation of what has gone on. These are the same networks that killed, JFK. These are the networks that, tried to assassinate Trump. These are the networks that killed Lincoln. And I know I'm going through a bigger history than for a
okay.
mayor's
So when you
place.
say networks, are you saying just kind of like political philosophies that are poisonous mentally, or like how? I love this. I want to know how does this connect to the corruption going on now? I'm
Yeah,
tracking. Go ahead.
yeah. It goes on from the standpoint of looking at a situation which is how do I say, it goes back to the founding of our country. Okay, that's the only way I can explain it, and I
Okay.
hope people hang in there with me
Yeah,
on
no,
this.
and that's why I'm asking these questions so
Yeah,
people know
and,
where you're going.
oh, now my dog's barking because somebody's knocking
The
at the
dog saying stop talking.
door. Yeah. Um, and so what you're looking at in the situation is that when the country was founded, it was founded on great. Oh, can you hold on a minute? I got to tell somebody to answer the door.
Is that the feds kicking your door in?
Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on one second.
This could be. You never know. Mindy may not come back, guys, because
Hold
that
on.
could be why we don't talk about corruption. It gets wild. um, guys, thanks for joining. I'll take this moment to.
Okay, I'm back. I did
Oh, good,
return.
good. We'll take this
Okay,
moment
sorry.
to.
It
Well,
was
I was
a
going to say, please follow Mindy. She's on X, Mindy for Oakland. She is responsive. She has a great X page. And her website, electmindy.com, pretty simple. There's your call to action.
right.
Has tons of information. And so I was just taking a moment to reset and let everybody know if you're watching this, we're live right now. We have people watching live on X. Thank you so much. I'm monitoring it here. We're
Hang on.
live on X, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. And this
Yeah.
video will be up for perpetual viewing. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, back to the where we started.
Yes.
So when our country was founded, it's very important to say there was two schools of thought. There was the American system, which came out of the idea that we're created in the image of God.
Mhm.
We have a creative mind. I love my puppy dog you heard barking, but he can't do what we humans can do. And it was set on the principles that went into a very deep founding from the Renaissance, from Plato. These were not academic ideas. These were real ideas of how do you do the good? And how
Right.
does man express that? Except
It's a good
through,
question as people go, where did they come up with the ideas for democracy and the Constitution, which were obviously a representative republic, but where did they come up with those ideas? And I love where you're going.
yeah, and this is what Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin was a scientist, George Washington was a scientist. So they knew that the way that you express the good is through new discoveries, through the development of a culture that has children and generations to come improving on that good. Like I always tell the story, one of the reasons I got very political, because I didn't come from a political family, was my grandmother in her broken English coming from Ukraine in 1913 said to me at 8 years old, Mindy, you have to leave this world a better place than when you came into it. And that holds a responsibility to why you're on this planet Earth, to the immortality of why you're on this planet Earth.
I just have a thought. I don't know if I've told my children that. I'm
Yeah,
going to do that.
yeah.
It's stuck with you forever.
Ever,
We're talking about it now. What
it,
she did is affecting me.
yeah,
Wow. I'm gonna make sure I tell my kids that. Go ahead.
right. No, it really did, because especially in this culture today, where that has been under attack, that's really what's been under attack. That understanding that you're on this planet for a short time, even if you live to be 100, it's a short time. And there are principles that govern human development. And each generation is supposed to make more breakthroughs that advance it and open up new horizons into physical. That's why exploring space is so important. And it's not a
Yeah.
contradiction. If we explore space and discover we didn't always have electricity. At one point, we were rubbing two sticks together. So how did we get from two sticks to kerosene, to oil, to now where we could have fusion and nuclear power and fusion? And how are we going to go beyond that? And that's that's the American system. It's not cheap labor. It's not cheap products. It's that fundamental. And the opposite to that school of thinking was the oligarchical school of thinking, which through history became what we call British imperialism today, was Roman imperialism. It went through many manifestations. I won't go through it all today. But it became the thinking of that attacked that idea that the individual just has the right to do their own thing.
Well, the selfishness of humanity.
Right.
That's essentially what you're saying, is that there's two sides of it. There's the traditional selfless values that America was built on, and somehow we've been invaded, in my opinion, by a mind virus that makes people completely selfish. And when they look at politics, or when they look at advancing the culture, they look at, how do I do it for me?
Right. And that is what has, that was the fight in the beginning of the country. I mean, George Washington and Jefferson were on two different sides, even though they worked together in the Revolution. Once the Revolution happened, Jefferson and George Washington was the embodiment of the American system. And Jefferson supported the oligarchical system, but he wanted it under their control. And if you really study history, this becomes very live to the fight today. This is not academia. And so these two factions have been fighting it out. And that's why we're at such a turning point now. And what Trump has done to go against globalization, against this me system, and to return to the American system of bringing, this culture back. I call it a culture. It's not just infrastructure. It's just not building, manufacturing and industry. It's a culture of the identity, of the beauty of why we're created in the image of God. We didn't create ourselves. Human beings didn't create themselves. We didn't create the planet. Yeah. We didn't create the universe. But
and I love what you're saying. You're saying so many great things. I like what you're saying about obviously made in the image of God, and that's wonderful. We are definitely at an inflection point, and there is a cultural change in the United States, and which does affect the world. The selfishness that has invaded our culture is breaking down the minds of the future. I agree with that. And it's folks like you and me and other folks who have lived a little, and they know where that brings you. It brings you to a corrupt council, corrupt mayor. I'm not saying the council's corrupt. I'm just saying politics get corrupt because of the selfishness and the lack of awareness that consequences have actions. And some of these things that are being propagated are just to get people to agree with a selfish agenda and to make people more money and make people more powerful. They're not really going to do anything positive for our future. And when you look at what Doge is doing and what's happening in the federal government, I'm just agreeing with you. You're seeing the uncovering of a massive scandal to epic proportions, like historic scandal of what's going on in our government. It blows my mind
Mm-hmm.
that they have been doing what they have been doing, for years. And so, yes, it's a seismic change. It takes a seismic shift that people do not understand. And it takes a person like Trump or someone like that who's misunderstood, who will be the bad guy and who will be the hero, be what you need him to be or she to be, whoever that leader is. It's more than Trump. It's a movement of leaders
Right.
like you. That's
Right.
where I'm going. And so I love this. So what I'm sensing that you're feeling is like that mission that for you is like kind of an eternal mission, right? It's like back to the foundations of time. You want to bring that mission to Oakland, like
Right.
bringing it to, and so that brings us back to the charter. You want to change the charter.
Right.
You want to, you want to make it a strong mayor in order to make some influential changes. Now, I'll say this and let you go, but it seems like a lot of the politics in the Bay Area and Oakland, San Francisco, we'll specifically say Oakland, has been affected by nationwide agendas.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I feel you're saying is why not have a conservative agenda? Right? Why
All right.
if
Well,
they
the actual American agenda.
Yeah, like for example, raising the minimum wage in Oakland, which is something they've talked about, that Barbara has talked about. That is more of a nationwide Democrat like party line thing. Like, no, it's not. I'm not taking a side, but there are things like that that are imposed on local cities that are from a larger agenda, and we're just made to take it. And it doesn't fit sometimes our city mold. It doesn't fit the culture. It doesn't fit the demographic. But people are made to. These things are imposed on them, and local governments fail.
Right. And this is this is good.
We got soapboxes. I'm getting on mine. You're getting on yours.
This is great. No, this is
Good. I'm glad you enjoy this, guys. We're live on Facebook, X, Rumble, YouTube. Our numbers are growing as people are watching this live. But go ahead,
right.
Mindy. Mindy for Oakland, mayoral candidate. Oh, and by the way, can I just say, why am I in this random hotel room? Because I'm on the road doing some business, but we had to do it. I know people are like, why is he in a hotel room? By the way, I was actually I won't tell you what city I was at, but I was at a city council meeting last night. I go to these things in different cities. Someone asked me to go, so I went, and I saw something that was dastardly. It happens all the time. I saw a city attorney do something that's illegal, but nobody watches. Some of these small groups, nobody watches these small towns. Oakland is a big town, but nobody watches these meetings. Like, things can happen when citizens aren't paying attention, that aren't educated. Okay, go ahead. I'm off.
No, great. No, that's so important. So I'll just add into what you said about the mayor because see, I think we could solve every problem Oakland has.
I agree with that.
It take years. I think you have to have an approach with saying, wait a minute, we're not going to do what has been going on. We're going to clean house, as I said earlier, of the nonprofits, all the misspending, all of this, and we're going to redirect it. And if we have to change the charter and the ordinances to do things, we change it. We don't say, well, this is the way it's been, so we have to keep doing it this way. Well, it was human beings who created those laws. It's human beings who are supposed to change the laws.
Yeah, it's not in stone. And yeah, these are people that are elected that you can change these things.
Right. And I can tell you what I've seen of the non-functioning of the city. And then I want to go to the drug question.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hit the non-functioning. The right hand of the city does not know what the left hand is doing.
100%.
The departments, what I've seen of how departments function is, and the way that the city council makes decisions, they have no idea how the police department functions. They have no idea how, anything functions. Because if you did, you'd have a top-down approach. You'd bring the patrol officers who do the work into the discussion. You wouldn't have the separation, like this issue about getting patrol cars that are sitting in San Leandro. You'd have a whole different system of getting patrol cars. What people in Oakland have to understand, other cities don't work this way.
They don't. That's why they're not on the verge of bankruptcy like Oakland.
Right. So you don't have to accept Oaklanders
I mean,
these,
it's preposterous to go, okay, we have all these problems, but it's fine.
yeah, other cities don't have the
There,
same
there,
ordinance.
there are people that look at the camera in politics and say everything's fine. It is a lie.
Yeah. And it's really incredible. I'll just tell you one experience I had, and I was doing a ride along, and there was a mentally ill woman clearly on drugs. She was clipping wire off of one of the poles to sell. She was a known person. She was not the first time being arrested.
Most
But
of
we
them
don't
are
have
known to
any
law enforcement. Yeah.
we don't have any health facilities, mental health facilities. John George is overworked and can't handle it. We need mental health facilities. Now, this woman was arrested, but we have brand new paddy wagons in Oakland, but we don't use them.
Can we break down what a paddy wagon is for the kids?
Okay, a paddy wagon is a wagon that, when you're arrested, goes around and picks up all the people being arrested, so the individual cops, police officers, don't have to drive every criminal to, in this case, Santa Rita.
It's like a big bread truck. Imagine that. Throw them
Yeah,
all in.
there you go. And we
A lot
have
of big
them.
cities use them. A lot of big cities use them.
Yeah, we have them. But they say we don't have the money to use them. But we have them. They're sitting there. So meanwhile, you have to take 2 police officers off the beat when we don't have enough police officers to drive out to Santa Rita, out in, it's either in Dublin or Pleasanton, I forget which of the cities, right? And run into overtime and everything else. I mean, it's crazy. That's what I mean. This city is run so inefficiently because there's no top-down approach to look at the whole city,
Yeah.
to look
I
at
mean,
all the departments.
and no one comes out and says what you're saying.
Yeah,
No one comes out and says, hey, this is a freaking nightmare.
yeah.
We have to do something different. No, they take pictures on the steps. Everybody's happy. Come on.
No, you got to get down in there. And I tell you, you should bring these patrol officers into the discussion of how to run the police department. They know, they experience it.
So how many ride-alongs have you done? You were saying 7, 8?
About 7 or 8. I always lose the count a little bit, but about mostly I did one in the north, but the rest was all in the west. At the city hall, the northern side. But
so let's make this plain. Anyone running for mayor can do this, right? Can ride along, right?
Yeah, okay. And I tell you, and this is, you learn so much that you don't know, that you need to know, which is why I started doing it.
Yeah, that's how you learn. I mean, that's what you do.
And then you learn what you need to fix, and you need who to turn to help fix it, which is the police officers themselves. And the second thing we have to get rid of to help them, I said earlier, the ordinances is one. 2, we have to get rid of the federal oversight committees and commissions and a lot of the local oversight. Because not only is that taking a bundle of money out of the city to do this, but it's tying these officers up. Any criminal, any citizen can complain about a police officer just saying, I don't like the way he's looking at me. And then it ties up the sergeant to have to do all this paperwork.
It's a big deal, yeah. No, that's been a problem for them, right? A lot of them are pulling back from what you're hearing and what I've seen because they just don't want to engage someone that knows how to make that work, right? There's the people the unfortunate, folks that are criminally minded who will use that against the law enforcement. What's the answer then? How would you, being the mayor, how would you make that?
Well, first of all, I'd make sure I get the Federal Oversight Commission out of here.
Okay, so that would be a collaboration with the decision makers, the council. Okay.
Right, the mayor can't do it by himself, but by herself.
You need everything. And by the way, everybody needs to know a lot of these things that any candidate talks about needs the way the mayoral charter is set up will need cooperation from the council.
Exactly. So therefore, I would hold town meetings with the citizens of Oakland. I will be putting out, you should put out 3 times, 4 times a week updates to the citizens of Oakland. This is what I need you to be concerned about. This is what I'm trying to change. What is your input? What are your ideas? I need you to weigh in on this. But maybe that somebody has a better idea. I want to hear it. I don't know everything, so I want to hear it. And we have to get on the city council to change the ordinances. We have to get rid of these oversight commissions. And no other city, I'm sure there's one other city or somewhere run like this, but most,
Too many of them.
not too many. Most cities don't have any of this capability.
Yeah. Now, did a lot of these rules come in during, George Floyd riots, COVID, or were these rules? I would need to know this. I need to be educated. A lot of these rules that hold the police back, has this been going on before? Because the defund the police movement did occur, in 2021, when that went down. So is a lot of these things a holdover from that movement, or
I
were
think
these in
there's
place?
I think there's a lot that is a holdover from all that. I think there's a lot that was not ever quite right. I'm still learning about the timetable.
Sure, it's
And
complicated.
it's complicated, but I know Jerry Brown, when he was mayor, he was the one who took the mayor out of the city council. So
Oh.
that happened under Jerry Brown.
Now, Google Jerry Brown, guys, if you don't know who he is. He actually, did you see the recent interview? I think it was a month ago, where they asked him about all the legislation.
I
And
tried to get into it, and for some reason I had a problem.
yeah, and he was saying it's like out of control. He said the legislation that they do in California, like the number of, it's like a crazy number. The legislation they pass versus what they remove or sunset it's like, he said it's at such a critical mass that California is being so overly legislated that there's like no freedoms, and remain like left. And I'm like, this is Jerry Brown, who is one of the biggest left wing icons up there with Barbara, right? Saying that he's essentially saying we took this shit too far.
Yeah.
And now we're eroding constitutionality and freedoms. What a lot of people need to understand is everything should be founded with constitutionality at the forefront. So anyway.
No, that's right, Jason. That's our principles, and the state is out of control.
So let me take a moment to say, Mindy for Oakland, guys, that's her X account. Follow her. She's running. If you're joining in live, she's running for mayor. Mindy, this is fantastic. We're coming up on almost an hour, so I want to value your time. I have another 20 minutes or so I'll keep my eye on the clock. We'll go with that. Let's jump into this is amazing, and I do want to jump into some other things, but let's keep talking about the police. Do you believe in the non-chase policy or the pullback policy?
No, I don't believe it should be strictly non-chase. I know, and I've talked, and I have very firm ideas on this because I know the restrictions on the police, and I know the liabilities that are put on them, which is also wrong. I mean, you can't expect a police officer to do a job and then he's told you're personally responsible for everything. I think we need to set up a unit that is actually trained as high-speed chase, so that you actually have officers who are highly skilled, because it is a skill for high-speed chase.
It is. You know your stuff. It is.
Yeah. So you have to have high-speed chase, because right now the criminals know nobody's going to go after them.
They totally know that.
They know that they run red lights. Nobody's going to stop them.
There's videotape evidence of them just like taunting the police in Oakland.
Yeah. So you do need high-speed chase, but I would set up a special division, which is highly trained, that you have all over the city. So on a moment's notice, a call comes in, that somebody's being kidnapped, boom. Somebody's, being shot, boom, where we need to do that. You want to to me, money's not an issue. People come first.
Gotcha.
If you put the people first, if you actually industrialize Oakland, get industry going, create like a free trade zone. I don't like the word free trade, but I like to call it fair trade zone around the port. We could start manufacturing a lot of our own goods here in Oakland that could then be exported. We could bring in 21st century technology, some of the Silicon Valley type new technologies into Oakland. And if we create that kind of real production, that's where you generate your funds from, not from collecting parking tickets. You
You're
know.
right. I'm glad you brought that up. So let's jump to that fiscal accountability and the budget, the elephant in the room.
Mhm.
Barbara Lee says, hey, I have so many connections. We're just going to get Fed money, get us out of the hole. The budget looks like in the next couple of years, you're going to go from 90 million to probably 200 million, even it could be worse. Bankruptcy is in the cards.
Mhm.
If anybody tells you, I'm talking to the viewers, that it's not happening, that's a lie. This city's already bankrupt. You just don't have to see the paperwork.
Right.
How do you get out of this hole? People don't realize the revenue coming from the sports teams was so incredible. It solved all the problems for Oakland fiscally, and that's why they could do just crazy stuff politically because, hey, we're not going to pay a price. But once they screwed that up and lost that, now chickens are coming home to roost. There you go. So what can the mayor do? What is your thought? I know you just mentioned you can't always collect revenues, and that's basically what's going on. There's like 7 or 8 lines of revenue. They're basically just taxing people and hoping you double park and you don't pay these fees. It's crazy. It's not sustainable. So there has to be another source. And you can't. Tourism's not happening like it used to. Things are shutting down, so on and so forth. You know the problem better than I do. How can the mayor, if you're elected mayor, how can you change that
Well,
cycle? It's circling the drain.
well, you hit it right. They had, when we had the smarts teams, they had a certain real revenue stream,
And
which,
people didn't
we
realize
shouldn't
that.
have lost them all. I'm not a big sports person, but we should not have lost them. It was
Yeah, people
something
didn't
part of the
realize the
community,
cost.
part
Yeah.
of, I'd want to keep them. But you also need to have, as I keep harping back to, a productive base where you have your small businesses that are productive because we've dealt with the crime problem so they can open up their shops again.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, you need revenues of real industrial manufacturing to keep the actual growth of your city going, which then will help support the small businesses to be able to function. And unlike Barbara Lee, and I've heard her say it many times, I'm not saying anything she hasn't said publicly. I've sat next to
Right.
her during some of the forums. She says, well, we need to collect the parking tickets to help the revenue. Well, I
That's
don't believe that's the
ludicrous.
way of revenue for a city.
That's
Sorry.
ludicrous. We could all go out and start running red lights and double parking. That's not going to save Oakland.
No, no, that's not. So,
Let's get it. Hey, everybody, let's do a get a ticket day.
yeah,
Honestly, you might as well do that and do a press conference and say, hey, everybody in Oakland, let's all go out and get a ticket today. And then we're all going to do that for 3 days and pay those fines. We're out of the no. So how does somebody look? Barbara's fair game. You brought her up. How
I
does
know.
somebody with so much political knowledge say something so
Well,
just nonsensical?
I'll say something to that, which is that she's
And it's
been in
crazy to me.
Congress inside the Beltway for 26 years.
So
What has
she's
she
out of
done?
touch.
What has she done for Oakland? Why is Oakland in such bad shape if she was so good for 26 years in Congress?
Bingo. I mean, I just look at everybody that's been in the government for a while there, and I'm just being fair
Yep,
and
no.
saying, what's going on, man?
That's why I don't support Measure A, which is on the ballot, by the way. Everybody listening
Which
who
is
lives in
nuts.
Oakland,
Yeah. And right? Yeah.
do not vote for Measure A. We
Yeah. And
don't
I've
need
already
more sales tax to solve. It won't make Oakland worse, not better, and it will never solve anything.
well, it's just it's not helping the people, so it's got to be helping somebody, and
And
we have to get
bankers,
away from that. Yeah, we got to get
bankers
away
in
from
Wall
that.
Street.
100%. We got to get right. And I mean, sure, okay. Here's my thing. Okay, everybody says you got to raise taxes, you got to raise 2 cents a person, which by the way would put Oakland at one of the highest tax rates inside the city. Counting, it'd be like it's in Alameda County. It's nuts, right? So
Mhm.
that will keep people from buying stuff. It's a regressive tax, which
Mhm.
only affects the people that are already paying taxes because it's
Right.
not going to affect people, right? So my thought is like, okay, so if you say raising, not you, but if someone says raising tax is the answer, then raise it $10 on everybody. Go big, right? Why go 3 cents? Because people will go, oh, no big deal. Somebody's making a killing on you not thinking it's a big deal. That's my point. It's let's be real. If like the parking ticket thing, if that's going to solve the problem, everybody go get a ticket. But it's not. It's just politics because somebody down the line is making money off the citizens, and it's not going to change anything. Sorry, I'm just
No, you're right. You're right. That's the point. And
okay.
that's
So
why.
you're talking about getting manufacturing. I don't want to take away from your time.
Sure.
You're talking about a fair trade kind of thing around the port. Explain. I'm intrigued with that. How would the mayor help that situation with the port?
So we would have to negotiate it both with the Oakland port, which is part of our city, and the city council. And, and you'd actually, I believe, probably have to work with the federal government on that.
I would think so.
Yeah, that
And
you'd have to
here's what I
negotiate
love
with-
about you. Can I just say this?
Yeah.
We all know that Trump likes it when people like him. So if Trump was to watch this interview and you become mayor, he's going to be more likely to help you than Barbara Lee. Let's be honest. I mean, come on, guys. Everybody has and I want to make this clear. Everybody has a chance to win this next week. Special elections are special. No one should be under any illusion that Barbara Lee is the front runner.
Right.
There's no polling. Special elections are special. You have no idea. So this is why I'm doing this and talking to people who know what's going on. So getting the federal government involved. Can we talk about homelessness? We haven't really. I know that's something you've really spent a lot of time on. Talk about your platform with homelessness and how you think the mayor, if you become mayor, you can start making a change with that and do something different.
Well, there's two prongs I have on homelessness. One is that it's a drug problem.
Okay.
And you have to create a situation where you're going to go hard after these open air drug markets in Oakland and the illegal, what they call cannabis warehouses. There's about 50 cannabis illegal warehouses in Oakland.
Okay. I did not know that.
I've seen one of them up in person.
So they're just like cats that set up like a little shop and we're selling and nobody shuts them down?
No, it's actually a whole big warehouse, very controlled. It used to be controlled by the Sinaloa cartel. Now it's more controlled by the Chinese. And I actually saw
You're blowing my mind here.
I actually saw a shift change at one of these warehouses where people were just pouring out of it in their cars, coming out is on a shift change.
Mindy, I could see you as somebody that would just walk up to the cannabis warehouse and go, "Hi, can I just come in and hang out?" And you tell you're just an amazing conversation and just kind of work your way in. How do you get into watching a shift change?
Well, I was actually on a police ride-along, and we were doing something else. We were there for some other problem across the street. And then we noticed this building, which said something, I can't remember, some kind of security name. And noticed it was very odd that all these Chinese people were, and I have nothing against Chinese people, but all these Chinese people were coming out in their cars. And it was very strange that they would be working at a security company. These, little young people, old people, made no sense.
It just was interesting. Okay.
So that immediately raised that this might be a cannabis warehouse.
Interesting.
And then we saw a security guard out front and we asked him about it. And he said, yeah, that's what it is.
So you're saying shut them down.
Shut them down. And you're going to need federal help to do it because it's not something that like a police officer can just walk in there and say, hi, you're under.
Okay. So do you think weed is, or marijuana pot is contributing to the crime problem? Or do you think it's just the fact that they're doing that illegally and it makes it worse?
Well, it's more complicated.
Weed's big in Oakland.
It's a complicated question because let's back to the homeless and then I'll go to the crime. The homelessness, a lot of it is heavy drug related. Fentanyl, the open drug markets have fentanyl, other opioids, yes, cannabis, but it is very, you see it if you go to East Oakland and drive on International Boulevard and you see these encampments, and it's a crime. We need to get people help. It shouldn't be, do you want it? We have to get people if they're too far gone on drugs, they have to be put in an institution where either they get rehabilitated or at least protected for the rest of their life. I mean, it is a crime that we leave that the city officials, I hold them accountable. Let me put it this way. The city officials, and just going in and sweeping an encampment and just pushing people from one side to the other doesn't change anything.
Yeah, it's going to come back.
It's
And there's
going to come
plenty of
back.
places in Oakland for it. Yeah.
I've seen it on the underpasses, going from my house to downtown Oakland. And so, on the other hand, you have to have a federal policy, which the mayor of Oakland can't do, but the mayor of Oakland could work with the federal government. And I know we're going over time, but I want to say one word to pull
Oh no,
this.
I'm valuing your time. I mean,
Okay,
I have 10 minutes.
Okay, is that the source of there's two prongs. You got to clean it up in the city and go after the open air drug markets in the city. But at the same time, you need the federal thing that President Trump is doing, not only closing the borders, but working with Mexico like he's doing, where Mexico has a very strong policy against fentanyl. They're running incredible ads against fentanyl. They actually have, and what Trump has just done through the U.S. Treasury is the U.S. Treasury just sanctioned 6 of the Sinaloa cartels, some of the big cartels, which is part of what I want to see going after the offshore markets, where the drug cartels lie.
Yeah. So what Trump is doing, you're saying federally, that is going to help locally. It'll help Oakland if you're able to take advantage of that wave, right?
Right. And if you go after most of the drug cartels have become, it's a business now run by U.S. banks and international banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, other banks internationally, which work in the British-controlled Cayman Islands, where the drug cartels can deposit their money with no identification. You can say, I'm Joe Doe and I live in Hokey Pokey. And you can set up and nobody can know about it. Nobody can touch it. It's in the British Cayman Islands and other the offshore islands of the British. And it's a business. And this is where the human trafficking is also run from. That's why you have young girls on International, Boulevard, 17, 18, 20 years old, with hardly any clothes on, prostituting day and night in Oakland.
You're getting deep, but you're getting real.
Yeah.
That's real talk. No one has mentioned that to me. You are very connected to the criminal problem. Like
Yeah.
no one, I've talked to obviously a number of candidates.
Right.
They're all very involved in it in different ways, but you're like in the streets. You got some street cred that people should listen to you, and I hope they listen to this. By the way, Hokey Pokey sounds like a fun place, wherever that is.
I'll get you a map to it.
Yeah, thank you. I think people need to understand you have a powerful vision that is it's a time-tested vision. The things you're saying have been tested through time, through successful experiments throughout different parts of our democracy and our local government. Tough question for everyone, but I'll ask you this. Democrats have controlled Oakland for time immemorial. A lot of these problems started back then. And now they were baby problems. Now they're gargantuan adult problems, if you're tracking. Do you point the finger at these failed policies? Or is it the people implementing these policies? Because it's two different things. People can have good ideas, but screw them up and make the ideas, they implement them incorrectly, versus like conservative values or fiscal conservatism and those kind of things. Where does the blame lie that we're in this mess here? Yes, the local politicians are corrupt, but you were saying it's systematic. They're the result of the beginning failures. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a systemic problem. And the problem is most people don't look at it systemically from the top. We have to treat it both ways, from the top and locally. Obviously, that's why I'm running for mayor, because I think as a mayor with these kinds of ideas and understanding, I can bring something much deeper. And the problem came in twofold. One, it was deliberate. It was deliberate by the higher forces that wanted to destroy the United States and take down cities like Oakland, which once were productive, and turn it into their model. The second part of the problem is that people became ideological. A lot of the people who govern today may not be bad people. Some of them are bad people. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are very bad people.
I mean, if you're looking at 95 possible years in federal indictment, that
Yeah,
could
it's a
be
bad
somebody
people.
who they should
Right.
maybe look at how they've been doing some shit.
Yeah. But a lot of them are ideological. They grew up, they're younger than me, that are running, that are in, not just running, but are in office.
Yeah, I've been controlling. Yes, think about that.
They're
People
younger than me.
without
And I'm
your
not
life
saying,
experience, without mine or your life experience, let's just be real. We have some amateurs running some stuff here.
yep. And not that age always makes you great or better, but
Right.
a lot of the education that has produced a lot of the leaders that we have today
Yeah, that's a great way to put
is
it.
schooled in an ideology which is actually against the principles of the American system. Now, they don't know that. A lot of them
Right.
don't know that.
Right.
They don't know that they're not doing the real principles of our Constitution. They think they are, and I saw how the education got perverted. I know how my education, you know, and I have a bachelor's degree in music. I was starting to get a master's degree, and I said this is ridiculous, and I left. But uh,
What's
and
ridiculous about a master's in music? Is it like that's interesting to me. Is it like this is just kind of academic? I don't need this. I know enough. Like how does one say
no,
I'm good at music, but I don't want to do that?
well,
You got to be good to get there,
I
right?
kept the music alive and play, but
I
I
see.
realized when I was at Yale University, that's where I was getting my master's,
Ah,
that that first of all, the school was corrupt,
real.
and
Yeah.
I wasn't getting an education I thought I should get. And secondly, I said this is a waste of my life. I knew what I wanted to do with music, which is to educate the mind and the soul of people, to get music programs in the schools, like what gave me a chance to delve into Beethoven and Mozart and Bach and to become a better person because of that. And I didn't see the profession going in that direction. And I was worried. It was a time, this is 1974. It was a time when there was a lot of world hunger. There was a time of the drug culture I saw it destroying my generation.
Yeah, like the people don't realize the 70s is very similar to now. A lot going on, late 60s, 70s, lot, yes,
And I
politically.
remembered what my grandmother told me. You have to leave this world a better place than when you came after it, came into it,
I'm
rather.
inspired by her. That
And I
inspires.
said, is getting a degree here going to really solve the problems? I
Yeah,
said, no. And then I was making a decision, and I happened to run, it's a true story, so I should say it, into Lyndon LaRouche.
we
And I
want the
said,
truth.
finally, a political movement that is based on the human creative principle, on the American system, on these ideas of what it is to be in the image of God. And I said, okay, you got a choice, man. You can, and music has played a very big part in that 50-year history because we've done many performances. And I continue to keep it going and I want to see Oakland schools really develop what I had the advantage of in New York City, the kind of healthy program there is some stuff in Oakland, but it just needs to be more. It's not like it's not, but it
Yeah.
needs to be more. And it's such a part of the education. And instead of what the state is imposing in the city, kids don't need to learn how to become transgender. They need to learn how to better sit there and play a Beethoven composition or sing in a chorus that will do something for them that will create a beautiful soul.
No one has talked about the kids but you. I've
Really?
talked to a lot of people in Oakland and seen a lot of things online. Everyone's wrapped up in what they're calling each other at City Hall, the corruption. They're wrapped up in, who's doing what, who's behind, the shadow government, but nobody's talking about the kids.
To me, they're everything. That's our future. We're going to be dead someday. What do we? what are we raising to be our future
Yeah,
for
and
future generations?
yeah, Mindy, I kind of feel like it's like a war on kids in our culture
It
right now.
is. It
It
is.
I have 3 kids at different stages,
Mhm. Good.
and I I'm lucky because they're coming out okay,
Good.
uh, and I'm proud of them. But I think about them, but like I'm just kind of concerned when we elect people that just don't talk about the kids. There was a boy, 15-year-old boy, killed in Oakland for his backpack. What, 3 weeks ago?
Yep. Yep.
And only one person, I think you talked to. No, it's like we just move on.
Well,
Really?
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, this is what it's about, man. Like, I appreciate that we have paperwork from scandals coming out, and like, I appreciate we should know in government who these people are. I appreciate knowing this, but what about that family that has they just buried their son,
right.
who and teenagers love their backpacks. That's their world. He died for right.
To
He's
keep
going
his
to
backpack.
soccer. The city didn't do anything, but the soccer community did.
Hmm.
We're missing the point.
Well, this is, yeah, you're absolutely right, Jason. And that's the reason I got political, was because I looked at my generation. I said, what's going to come after me? And we have to fix that problem, because that's what being human is about. And, those kids are everything. And, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for that.
Well, now that you almost made me cry, Mindy,
No,
I just
okay,
gotta
Jason.
say you're making me cry. Hey, we could talk forever, and we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do it
Yeah,
again. After the election, we'll let's see. See how the dust settles. We do have to wrap. I'm so
oh,
sorry.
sure, sure. I look
Um,
forward to future times together.
yeah. So let's we'll do really quick, really rapid fire things that we didn't cover. You said that there was a situation, an article that just came out. Let's talk about that really quick. That somebody
Okay.
passed away that was related to it was a fentanyl death. We want to just mention that because that's on your mind. We'll do a couple of minutes on that.
Okay, yeah. We just came out today. I saw it in the East Bay Times. Oakland police launch investigation after fentanyl death of a top prosecutor's estranged husband. This was a gentleman, Terrell Hegler, who was getting divorced from Venus Johnson, who almost became our board of supervisors. She works for top deputy to State Attorney General Rob Bonta's office.
Oh, there's
Okay, don't get me started on that. Okay.
we'll have to you and I will have to do a state thing. We'll talk. That will be crazy. We'll need 16 hours for that.
Yes, there you go. I'd love that.
That'd be
And
wild.
he took according to the article, and this is strictly from the article, he took a blue pill called SOL, and it turns out it was laced with fentanyl.
He was SOL. That's
Yeah,
kind of joke.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
so fentanyl is killing people that are connected to government.
it's killing everyone. People don't realize, beside the drug addicts, in the homeless communities on the streets. And that the other thing of the homeless thing, real quick, is if we make the city productive again, get the businesses up, get industry and things moving, people will have skilled jobs, will have job trainings. We'll bring people into the productive sector. But if you don't have a productive sector, you're going to have more homelessness. So I just wanted to quickly say that. But back on the fentanyl question, yeah, people don't realize how many young people are dying of fentanyl because they take it because they think they're taking a an anxiety drug, or they think they're taking some other drug, and they go on Snapchat or they go on
They don't think it
Instagram
through. They
and they
do not
buy
think
it
it
off,
through.
and it's laced with fentanyl. How many more have to die, let
More
alone
kids,
those
yeah,
who are overdosing
kids,
on the
young
street?
people. Yeah, wait. It shuts guys. It just shuts you down. Like it shuts your body down. Fentanyl is. Didn't Michael Jackson take? Was it one of those drugs? Or there's celebrities that have died from
Well,
fentanyl.
there's celebrities that have died of it, and
You
now
know,
you have
it can
this
affect anybody.
guy Hegler was a vice president of a prominent anti-homeless nonprofit. So it strikes everyone,
Everybody.
and so it's time to get serious and we have to put on the armor of God and go after this stuff and not be
Love
afraid.
that. Mindy, it's just been a blessing. It's been a joy to spend some time with you today. You made my day brighter.
Thank you.
Tell everybody how to find you and how to vote for you.
Okay. You can find me as Jason has said on electmindy.com and 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 to vote I'm going to say something which might be a little provocative like unlike
Ooh, I
everything.
love provocative at the end of my interview.
Okay. Because it's a ranked choice election, which is the only reason I'm about to say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
And as you said, I can raise things about candidates, which is okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you can.
Because I'm telling people, vote for me, number one, because I do want to be mayor, and vote for me, number one.
Okay.
But I'm also saying vote for Lauren Taylor, number two, because I do not want Barbara Lee, and under circumstances, to become mayor of Oakland. I think she
Wow.
would be the worst case for Oakland because of who controls her and what is behind her, including a lot of the bad contracts from the SEIU and others. But that's why I'm saying that, because we have to at least pave the way. So it's number one for me. I want to be mayor. I'm not saying it
Okay.
because I don't want to be mayor. I want to be mayor. And I think I'd be a great mayor and work with people in a way that I could bring them together. But number two, I would say vote Lauren Taylor because I cannot accept Barbara Lee at all
I love
becoming.
that. Okay. That is provocative. Look, it's practical. Look, guys, I'm a moderate. I'm not a liberal. I am an independent. I lean conservative. Obviously, if you've listened to this interview, you'll know. But you have to be practical. You have to reach across the aisle. You have to be bipartisan. And I have not heard any candidate say, vote for me one, but vote for someone with a different philosophy too, because that's the greater good. Guys, if you are so opposed to people that voted for Trump or people that support the current administration, you have to look at the bipartisanship that actually comes from people that believe in that agenda. Think about that. I think that is really admirable, and that's again that's our theme: being selfless for the greater good. Mindy, that's fantastic. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and we're going to get together again. And everyone should check out your website, and everyone get out and vote. If we don't vote, it doesn't happen, and this is why we're doing this to get the message out. Good luck with the campaign. And I'll give
Thank
you
you,
the
Jason.
last word, the last word before we go. Anything
Sure.
else? Anything else you want to say?
I would just say thank you very much. This has been great. And I do want to come back and thank you for having me on, Jason. And I'd love to do a regular podcast with you.
We're totally doing it. It's good. Like I have so many great ideas, but no one can do it alone, right? We're all in this together, and
Yeah,
I'm really I love doing this too. It helps me become smarter, and I feel like I'm making a difference.
you are.
I
You
get
are,
to thank
Jason.
you, and you are too. And everything you said, I'm going to rewatch this interview myself. I try to watch all my interviews again. Everything you said is extremely powerful for anyone that wants to learn about the process. Okay, you have a great rest of the day. I know you got other
You
campaign
too.
stuff to do. Tell the family I said hey,
Yeah,
and
thank
we'll
you.
get together. God bless you and thank you.
God bless you. Thanks.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Okay, bye.